think Christmas parties in the 60s and 70s were all about deviled eggs and crackers? Think again. These Mad Men-era holiday gatherings served up some of the most ambitious, theatrical, and downright bizarre appetizers in American culinary history. Let's dig into 25 Christmas appetizer recipes from the 1960s and 70s that have completely vanished from modern Christmas tables. Rumaki, the bacon-wrapped wonder that defined sophisticated 60s entertaining. Picture this. It's 1965, and your neighbor just returned from Hawaii bragging about Trader Vic's. Suddenly, every Christmas party in America featured Rumaki, those mysterious bacon-wrapped bundles that looked exotic but tasted familiar. This Polynesian-inspired appetizer became the ultimate status symbol during the tiki culture craze that swept post-war America. Here's how they made it. Take a water chestnut, wrap it with half a chicken liver, marinate the whole thing in soy sauce, ginger, and brown sugar overnight. Then wrap it tightly in bacon and secure with a toothpick. Broil until the bacon crisps and caramelizes, creating this incredible sweet savory glaze. The water chestnut stayed crunchy while the liver turned buttery and mild. This was the appetizer that separated the adventurous hosts from the basic ones. Serving Rumaki meant you'd traveled, you had taste, you weren't afraid of organ meat. Today's bacon-wrapped dates are the sanitized descendants. If you're loving this trip down memory lane, hit subscribe for more forgotten food history. Cheese Ball Hedgehog. The Cheese Ball Hedgehog, where food became pure theater. Every suburban hostess in 1968 had her signature cheese ball recipe, but the truly ambitious ones transformed theirs into animals. The hedgehog reigned supreme at Christmas parties, its quills made from pretzel sticks, sliced almonds, or even potato chips stuck into a cream cheese sphere. The base started with softened cream cheese, sharp cheddar, and Worcestershire sauce, all whipped together until Fluffy Most added dried beef bits, chopped pecans, or a packet of ranch dressing mix for extra flavor. You'd shape this mixture into an oval body, then stick hundreds of thin pretzel sticks all over to create spikes. 2 raisins became eyes, a cherry tomato the nose. This wasn't just food, it was conversation. Guests would gather around, exclaiming over the creativity while nervously trying to extract pretzels without destroying the sculpture. The Cheese Ball Hedgehog represented everything about 60s entertaining: presentation over practicality, whimsy over taste, and the belief that food should entertain as much as nourish. Today, we've lost that playful spirit. Deviled eggs. Deviled eggs, the grandmother of every modern stuffed appetizer you've ever eaten. These weren't the simple mayo mustard versions we see at picnics today. Christmas deviled eggs in the 60s and 70s were elaborate productions, often arranged in special egg plates shaped like hens or decorated with paprika patterns that would make a food stylist weep. The process was sacred. Boil eggs for exactly 12 minutes, shock them in ice water, then peel carefully to keep whites pristine. Scoop out the yolks and mash them with mayonnaise, Dijon mustard, sweet pickle relish, and a splash of vinegar until creamy. Some families added deviled ham or minced anchovies for extra punch. Pipe the mixture back into the whites using a pastry bag with a star tip. No spoons allowed. For Christmas, hostesses topped them with caviar, salmon roe, or tiny shrimp. They represented post-Depression abundance. Eggs were once precious, but now you could waste time making them beautiful. Every church lady and country club member had her secret ingredient. The deviled egg was democracy in action. Cheap enough for everyone, fancy enough for anyone. Lobster Thermidor. Lobster Thermidor, the ultimate we've made it Christmas appetizer. While most families served this as a main course, the truly extravagant hosts of the early 70s miniaturized it into bite-sized portions served in tiny shells at cocktail parties. This dish screamed old money, French restaurants, and expense accounts. The preparation was labor-intensive. Split lobster tails, remove the meat, and sauté it in butter with shallots and white wine. Make a bechamel sauce thick with egg yolks and heavy cream. Fold in Gruyere cheese, mustard and brandy, then combine with the lobster. Pile everything back into the shells, dust with Parmesan, and broil until bubbling and golden. The result was obscenely rich, silky cheese-laden sauce clinging to sweet lobster meat with a crispy brown top. This wasn't sustenance. It was status-serving Lobster Thermidor, meant you'd been to Europe, or at least knew someone who had. It was Julia Child's America, where French cooking technique elevated you socially. Today, we've replaced this kind of formal showing off with casual bragging about farm-to-table ingredients. Bacon-wrapped Smokies. Bacon-wrapped Smokies, the working-class answer to Rumaki. While the country club set served exotic water chestnuts and chicken livers, regular folks wrapped little cocktail wieners in bacon and called it a party. These appeared at every Christmas gathering from 1970 onward, sitting in slow cookers next to meatballs and grape jelly sauce. The method couldn't be simpler. Cut bacon strips into thirds, wrap each piece around a little smoky sausage, secure with a toothpick, and bake until the bacon crisps. Most hostesses added a brown sugar glaze, sometimes with a splash of bourbon or maple syrup, that caramelized into a sticky sweet coating. The bacon fat rendered out, basting the little sausages until they plumped up and glistened. These democratized the bacon-wrapped appetizer trend. You didn't need special ingredients or techniques. You needed bacon, sausages, and an oven. Kids and adults alike demolished trays of these things. They represented America's love affair with convenience foods, dressed up just enough for company. The Smokies have survived in some circles, but they've lost their place as sophisticated party fare. Liver pâté en croûte. Liver pâté en croûte. The intimidating centerpiece that proved you'd mastered French cooking from your Time Life cookbook series. This wasn't just pâté, it was pâté encased in a golden pastry shell, sliced to reveal a perfectly pink interior studded with pistachios. It sat on cutting boards at Christmas parties like a culinary dare, making it required commitment. Grind chicken livers with pork fat, eggs, cognac, and heavy cream until smooth. Season heavily with thyme, allspice, and white pepper. Some recipes called for soaking the livers in milk overnight to mellow the flavor. Line a loaf pan with pastry dough, pack in the liver mixture with a center strip of whole chicken breast for visual contrast, add more pastry on top, cut steam vents, and bake for over an hour until the internal temperature hit 160 degrees. The result was polarizing, rich, mineral-flavored, and undeniably livery. Spreading it on crackers or toast points was a test of sophistication. Refusing it marked you as unsophisticated. This was the 60s and 70s, when Americans desperately wanted to seem worldly by eating things that made them uncomfortable. Swedish meatballs in cream sauce. Swedish meatballs in cream sauce. IKEA ruined these for everyone, but back in the 60s, these were peak holiday elegance. Every Christmas party featured a chafing dish, bubbling with dozens of these tender spheres bathed in rich, slightly sweet cream gravy. They represented post-war America's fascination with all things Scandinavian and modern. The authentic recipe mixed ground beef and pork with breadcrumbs soaked in cream, finely minced onion, egg, and warming spices like allspice and nutmeg. You'd roll them small, marble-sized, then brown them in butter until deeply caramelized. The sauce was simple but perfect. Beef stock, heavy cream, and the pan drippings, thickened just enough to coat the meatballs without drowning them. Some cooks added lingonberry jam for that sweet tart contrast. These weren't just food, they were cultural signifiers. Serving Swedish meatballs meant you appreciated clean Scandinavian design, modern furniture, and sophisticated simplicity. The cream sauce was indulgent without being vulgar, foreign without being threatening. Today's frozen versions are pale shadows of what hostesses spent hours rolling by hand. Shrimp cocktail, the appetizer that defined aspiration in post-war America. Before shrimp became everyday protein, it was special occasion food, and Christmas parties demanded those classic glass dishes filled with pink crescents hanging over the rim, a small cup of red cocktail sauce in the center. This was as fancy as most families got. Preparation seemed simple, but required precision. Boil shrimp with Old Bay seasoning, lemon, and bay leaves for exactly 3 minutes until just opaque. Then shock them in ice water to stop the cooking. Peel and devein carefully, leaving tails intact for elegant handling. The cocktail sauce mixed ketchup, prepared horseradish, lemon juice, Worcestershire sauce, and a dash of hot sauce. The ratio was every family's secret. What made this special was the gesture. Shrimp was expensive, and serving it chilled meant you planned ahead. You cared about presentation. You wanted guests to feel valued. The combination of sweet, cold shrimp and sharp, spicy sauce was refreshing in a way that stood out among all the heavy, creamy appetizers. Shrimp cocktail survives today, but it's lost its glamour. Stuffed celery boats. Stuffed celery boats, the vegetable that justified everything else at the party. In an era of unapologetic indulgence, celery represented restraint and health, even when stuffed with cream cheese and blue cheese mixed with butter. These appeared on every relish tray, pale green dugouts filled with various concoctions, often garnished with paprika or chopped peanuts. The classic filling mixed softened cream cheese with Roquefort or blue cheese, a splash of heavy cream to make it pipeable, and sometimes chopped walnuts or dates for texture. You'd wash and trim celery stalks, cutting them into 3-inch pieces, then pipe or spread the filling down the hollow center. Some hostesses got creative with deviled ham, pimiento cheese, or even chicken salad. What's interesting is how these represented the tension in 60s entertaining. The desire to serve something fresh and light alongside all the bacon-wrapped excess. Celery boats were the permission slip for second helpings of everything else. They've disappeared because we've stopped pretending raw vegetables make parties healthy, and because piping cream cheese into celery feels absurd when you could just serve crudités with ranch dip, ham and pickle roll-ups. Ham and pickle roll-ups, possibly the easiest appetizer in the entire 60s arsenal, yet somehow they disappeared completely. These were pure efficiency. Take a slice of deli ham, spread it with cream cheese, place a whole dill pickle at one end, roll it up tightly, refrigerate, then slice into pinwheels. Done. Yet they were everywhere at Christmas parties. The magic was in the proportions. The salty ham, tangy pickle, and rich cream cheese created this perfect bite that was refreshing, substantial, and surprisingly addictive. Some versions added a smear of mustard or Worcestershire sauce to the cream cheese. The best ones used thin sliced ham and let everything meld in the refrigerator overnight so the flavors married. These represented the democratization of fancy food. You didn't need cooking skills, special equipment, or expensive ingredients. Any working mother could make these after her shift and still feel like she was hosting with style. They were Cold War pragmatism meets entertaining ambition. We've abandoned them because they seem too simple, too vintage, too reminiscent of a time when convenience was celebrated rather than hidden. Tomato aspic mold. Tomato aspic mold, the shimmering red tower that confounded and delighted in equal measure. This jellied tomato creation, usually molded into elaborate shapes and studded with celery, olives, and sometimes shrimp, was inescapable at Christmas parties. It wobbled when you set down the platter, catching light like a jewel, making aspic required patience. Dissolve gelatin in tomato juice heated with lemon juice, Worcestershire, hot sauce, and celery salt. Add finely diced vegetables, shrimp, or hard-boiled eggs. Pour into an oiled mold and refrigerate for hours until set. The unmolding was the moment of truth. Warm the outside briefly, invert onto a plate, and pray it released cleanly. Serve with mayonnaise or sour cream. This was food as architecture, substance as decoration. The texture, firm but giving, cold and slippery, was divisive. Kids hated it universally. Adults pretended to appreciate it while taking the smallest possible portions. Tomato aspic represented the 60s obsession with molded foods, with making everything into a shape, with gelatin as the ultimate modern convenience ingredient. We've collectively decided life's too short for savory jello. Pigs in a blanket. Pigs in a blanket, still around but completely transformed from their 60s glory days. Back then, these weren't the cute crescent roll-wrapped mini hot dogs we see now. Original pigs in a blanket meant full-sized sausages wrapped in homemade pancake batter or sometimes pastry dough, baked until golden, then sliced into rounds for serving. The proper method used actual link sausages, breakfast links or small bratwursts, wrapped in a simple pancake batter made with flour, eggs, milk, and a pinch of sugar. You dip each sausage in batter, arrange them on a baking sheet, and bake until the coating puffed up golden and crispy. Once cooled slightly, slice them into inch-thick rounds, revealing the sausage center surrounded by fluffy bread. These were hearty, substantial party food that could anchor an appetizer spread. Served with mustard for dipping, they satisfied hungry guests in a way that delicate canapés never could. The name came from the visual, the sausage tucked into its blanket of batter. Modern versions are cute, but lack the heft and homemade quality that made the originals special.
And thank you for watching.
Chicken liver mousse. Chicken liver mousse, the spread that separated adventurous eaters from cowards. Smooth as silk, rich as sin, this pale pink mousse sat in crystal bowls surrounded by toast points at upscale Christmas cocktail parties. It was French, it was sophisticated, and it required guests to either embrace or politely decline organ meat. The technique demanded precision. Sauté chicken livers in butter with shallots until just pink inside. Then puree them hot with more softened butter, heavy cream, brandy, and thyme until absolutely smooth. Season aggressively with salt, white pepper, and a touch of nutmeg. Pour into ramekins, top with clarified butter to seal, and chill overnight. The result was a mousse so smooth it felt like velvet on your tongue. This represented the pinnacle of home entertaining ambition. Making liver mousse meant you'd graduated beyond Lipton onion dip, that you'd embraced French technique, that you weren't squeamish. The flavor was intensely mineral, buttery, and complex, an acquired taste that many never acquired. It's disappeared because liver has fallen from favor and because modern entertaining embraces easier, crowd-pleasing options over challenging sophistication. Sausage balls. Sausage balls, the southern contribution to Christmas appetizers. These biscuit-textured spheres combined breakfast sausage, sharp cheddar cheese, and biscuit into something greater than the sum of their parts. At every holiday gathering below the Mason-Dixon line, you'd find a platter of these golden brown orbs, still warm and savory. The ratio was sacred. 1 pound of ground pork sausage, usually Jimmy Dean, 10 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese grated fresh, and 2 cups of biscuit mix everything with your hands until completely combined. No additional liquid needed because the sausage fat and cheese created the binder roll into walnut-sized balls. Arrange on baking sheets and bake at 375 until golden and cooked through. What made these special was the texture. Crispy exterior giving way to tender, slightly crumbly interior studded with melted cheese and seasoned pork. They were best eaten hot but remained good at room temperature. Sausage balls represented no-nonsense Southern hospitality, substantial, flavorful, made from pantry staples, and requiring no refinement or apology. They've survived in some regions, but lost their broader cultural moment. Oysters Rockefeller Dip. Oysters Rockefeller Dip, taking a luxurious New Orleans classic and democratizing it for the masses. Instead of individual oysters on the half-shell, this dip version let everyone access those rich spinach and butter flavors without the intimidation of actual oysters. It appeared at Christmas parties in chafing dishes, bubbling away next to crackers and toast points. Making it required commitment. Sauté onions and garlic in obscene amounts of butter, add fresh spinach, and cook until wilted. Then mix in chopped canned oysters, their liquor, Pernod or anise liqueur, heavy cream, and loads of Parmesan. The mixture got thick and intensely flavored, briny, herbal, and rich. Transfer to a baking dish. Top with more cheese and breadcrumbs, and bake until bubbly and golden. This dip represented American ingenuity, taking something exclusive and making it accessible. You got the sophisticated flavors of Oysters Rockefeller without the expense or the challenge of shucking. It was Pernod spiked spinach artichoke dip before that became ubiquitous. The combination of oyster brine and anise liqueur created something complex and adult. We've forgotten it because spinach artichoke dip won the cultural war. Vienna Sausages. Vienna sausages, straight from the can to the cocktail pick. These tiny mystery meat cylinders were Depression-era holdovers that somehow became acceptable party food in the 60s and 70s. They appeared on relish trays, sometimes heated in barbecue sauce, other times served cold with toothpicks and mustard. They represented the lingering influence of wartime practicality. The presentation varied. Some hostesses heated them in a sweet, tangy sauce made from grape jelly and chili sauce, the same treatment given to meatballs. Others served them cold, straight from the can, arranged on a plate like tiny pink soldiers. The more ambitious wrapped them in bacon or pastry dough before baking. Vienna sausages were divisive. Soft, salty, vaguely meat-flavored, but hard to identify specifically. Kids generally loved them. Adults tolerated them. They represented the clash between convenience culture and aspirational entertaining. You could serve them because they came from a can, but that can said Vienna, which sounded European and sophisticated. They've disappeared because we've stopped pretending canned meat products belong at parties, no matter how fancy we make them sound. Crab-stuffed mushrooms. Crab-stuffed mushrooms. These golden-topped beauties represented the height of 70s sophistication. Large button mushroom caps, stems removed, filled with a mixture of crab meat, cream cheese, and breadcrumbs, then baked until bubbly. They were elegant, bite-sized, and surprisingly labor-intensive for something that disappeared in one mouthful. The process required finesse. Clean large mushrooms, remove stems, and brush caps with melted butter. The filling combined real crab meat, not imitation, that marked you as cheap, softened cream cheese, mayonnaise, lemon juice, Worcestershire sauce, and fine breadcrumbs. Add minced garlic, Old Bay seasoning, and sometimes a splash of dry sherry. Mound this mixture into each cap, dust with paprika and Parmesan, and bake until golden. These weren't cheap or easy, which was precisely the point. Serving crab-stuffed mushrooms announced that you'd invested time and money into the party. The combination of earthy mushroom, sweet crab, and rich cheese filling was genuinely delicious. They've faded because they're fussy to make, and because the price of real crab meat makes them prohibitively expensive for party quantities. Cheese fondue. Cheese fondue, the centerpiece that turned appetizers into theater. In the early 70s, fondue pots were wedding gift staples, and Christmas parties featured these bubbling cauldrons of melted cheese surrounded by bread cubes on long forks. Swiss restaurants had made fondue fashionable, and Americans embraced it as the ultimate communal, sophisticated experience. The classic recipe combined Gruyere and Emmental cheeses, grated fine, white wine, garlic, and a splash of Kirsch, cherry brandy, all melted together in a ceramic pot over a flame. You'd toss the cheese with cornstarch first to prevent separation, then slowly stir in the wine until smooth and glossy. The kirsch added depth and helped with texture. Serve with bread cubes, apple slices, and blanched vegetables for dipping. Fondue represented everything about 70s entertaining: communal, slightly exotic, requiring special equipment, and making dinner into an activity. The ritual of spearing bread, swirling it through cheese, and trying not to lose it in the pot created conversation and laughter. It's disappeared because it's impractical, because cheese fondue requires constant attention, and because we've moved past making guests work for their food. Olive and pickle platter. The olive and pickle platter, the unsung hero of every Christmas spread, this humble arrangement of briny vegetables provided necessary acid and crunch to balance all the creamy, fatty appetizers. These weren't afterthoughts. They were carefully composed arrangements of green olives, black olives, pickles, pepperoncini, pickled onions, and sometimes pickled beets, all arranged in geometric patterns on sectioned relish trays. The care taken was remarkable. Green olives stuffed with pimientos arranged in one section, Kalamata olives in another, dill pickle spears fanning out, bread and butter pickle chips overlapping like scales, pickled onions clustered together. Some hostesses added celery sticks and carrot curls for color. The platter lived on the table all evening, constantly refilled and rearranged. This represented the understanding that good entertaining needed balance. Not every bite should be rich and heavy. The vinegar and salt from pickled items refreshed the palate between bacon-wrapped whatevers and cheese-based somethings. Today's crudité platters with ranch dip are the sanitized descendants, but they lack the personality and variety of a proper pickle tray. We've forgotten that sometimes the simplest offerings are the most necessary. Bacon-wrapped prunes. Bacon-wrapped prunes, possibly the most controversial appetizer of the era, these divided guests into camps. Those who understood that sweet dried fruit and salty pork are perfect partners, and those who couldn't get past the word prune. At sophisticated parties, these competed with Rumaki for bacon-wrapped supremacy. The method was elegantly simple. Soak pitted prunes in brandy or poured overnight until they plumped up. Then wrap each in half a strip of bacon and secure with a toothpick. Some cooks stuff the prunes with a blanched almond first for textural contrast, bake until the bacon crisped and its fat caramelized the prune's natural sugars, creating this incredible sweet salty glaze. These were sophisticated in a way modern appetizers rarely attempt. The combination of textures, chewy prune, crunchy bacon, and flavors, sweet fruit, salty pork, subtle alcohol, was complex and adult. But the word prune killed them. Americans associated prunes with old age and digestive issues, and no amount of bacon could overcome that. Today's bacon-wrapped dates are essentially the same thing with better marketing. We didn't lose the recipe. We lost the courage to call things by their proper names. Ritz crackers with cheese spread. Ritz crackers with cheese spread, the everyman's appetizer that appeared at every party regardless of budget or ambition. While the fancy folks served their pâtés and mousses, regular Americans spread neon orange cheese from a jar onto butter crackers and called it good. There was no shame in this. Ritz crackers were advertised as elegant party fare. The cheese options were vast: Kraft, Old English spread, pimiento cheese from a jar, port wine cheese balls rolled in nuts, or easy cheese sprayed in rosette patterns. The truly ambitious mixed their own spreads: cream cheese with dried beef, cheddar with pecans and mayonnaise, blue cheese with butter, and port wine. Arrange the crackers in overlapping circles, pipe or spread the cheese, add a slice of olive or a sprig of parsley on top. These represented accessible elegance. Ritz crackers came in a package but had mock apple pie recipes on the box that name-dropped high-end restaurants. The cheese spread might be processed, but you served it on a nice plate with cocktail napkins. This was middle-class aspiration in edible form. They've disappeared not because they taste bad, but because we've stopped believing convenience foods can be elegant. Cocktail meatballs. cocktail meatballs, small spheres swimming in the most unlikely sauce combination ever invented: grape jelly and chili sauce. This bizarre mixture became the defining flavor of 70s appetizers, appearing in slow cookers at every Christmas party. The sweet, tangy, slightly spicy sauce coated mini meatballs in a glossy shellac that was undeniably, inexplicably delicious. The meatballs themselves were simple: ground beef mixed with breadcrumbs, egg, and minimal seasoning, rolled, marble-sized, and browned. The real magic happened in the sauce: equal parts grape jelly and Heinz chili sauce, sometimes with a splash of lemon juice, heated until the jelly melted and combined with the chili sauce into something that transcended its weird origins. Transfer everything to a slow cooker and let it bubble away all evening. These represented American cooking's complete break from European traditions. No French chef would combine grape jelly and chili sauce, but American home cooks discovered something that worked through pure experimentation. The sweetness balanced the acidity, the meatballs absorbed the sauce, and guests ate dozens while trying to figure out the secret ingredient. They survive in some circles, but have lost their mainstream popularity. Eggnog dip. Eggnog dip, the ultimate seasonal appetizer that tasted exactly like Christmas. This sweet spiced dip made from cream cheese, powdered sugar, and actual eggnog served with ginger snaps, apple slices, or pound cake cubes appeared at parties from Thanksgiving through New Year's. It was dessert masquerading as an appetizer, and nobody complained. Making it was simple. Beat softened cream cheese with powdered sugar until fluffy, then slowly incorporate store-bought eggnog until you reached dipping consistency. Add nutmeg, cinnamon, and sometimes a splash of rum or brandy for authenticity. Some versions folded in whipped cream for extra lightness. Chill thoroughly before serving to let the flavors marry and the texture firm up. This represented the 60s and 70s love affair with cream cheese as the base for everything. The eggnog flavor was nostalgic and festive, making guests feel they were eating Christmas itself. It was indulgent without being too heavy, sweet without being cloying. Served with ginger snaps, it was the perfect end to an appetizer spread before dinner. We've abandoned it because sweet dips feel outdated and because we're suspicious of anything that blurs the line between appetizer and dessert.
Show you how to make a molded strawberry pineapple jello salad.
Jello mold desserts. The 1960s and 1970s were the golden age of jello molds, which became iconic staples of American kitchens during this time. These vibrant gelatin-based desserts were often the centerpiece of holiday feasts and special gatherings. Loaded with canned fruit, mini marshmallows, or crunchy nuts, jello molds brought a festive and whimsical flair to every Christmas table. Despite their somewhat unusual appeal, these colorful creations were adored for their playful charm and artistic presentation. Families enjoyed these molded desserts not only for their taste, but also as an expression of creativity. Whether it was a sweet or savory version, jello molds were a fun and memorable treat for the whole family. These dishes could be seen at countless celebrations, from Thanksgiving to birthday parties, becoming part of the nostalgia for many. While they may not be as popular today, jello molds still hold a special place in the hearts of those who remember them. Their unique combination of flavors and textures continues to evoke fond memories of festive American dining in the mid-20th century. Eggnog. No Christmas celebration was ever truly complete without a glass of rich, creamy eggnog. This holiday classic, beloved for its smooth texture and sweet, spiced flavor, was popularized during the golden age of festive gatherings. Eggnog became a staple of holiday traditions, making its way into countless homes and parties. Its nostalgic association with Christmas in the USA has endured for generations. Each sip brings back memories of cozy nights by the fire, family gatherings, and joyful toasts. Whether homemade or store-bought, eggnog remains a timeless treat. For many, it's not just a drink, it's a symbol of the warmth and magic of the season. Over the years, eggnog has become intertwined with other holiday customs, creating a perfect blend of festive nostalgia. With its distinct blend of eggs, milk, sugar, and spices like nutmeg, eggnog brings a sense of comfort and joy to all who indulge. The tradition of enjoying this creamy concoction continues to thrive, ensuring it remains a beloved holiday favorite. Rum balls. Rum balls were a popular holiday treat in America during the 1960s and 1970s, loved for their rich, indulgent flavor and easy preparation. These bite-sized, no-bake treats were made with a mixture of crushed cookies, powdered sugar, cocoa, and a generous splash of rum, then rolled into balls and coated in more powdered sugar or sprinkles. They became a staple at Christmas parties and family gatherings, offering a festive, boozy twist to traditional holiday sweets, when homemade treats were a key part of the season's celebrations. Often served alongside other nostalgic desserts like fruitcake and seven-layer salad, rum balls added a fun, adult touch to the holiday spread. Their popularity in Old America was fueled by their simplicity and the warm, comforting flavors that resonated during the colder months. Though rum balls have faded in popularity over time, they still evoke fond memories of Christmases past, when festive treats like these brought people together. For many, rum balls represent a sweet connection to the joyful, carefree spirit of 20th century holiday traditions. Punch bowls with sherbet. Punch bowls with sherbet were a staple at 70s gatherings, adding a splash of color and a fizzy twist to any party. These vibrant bowls were typically filled with a mix of fruity soda, juice, and, of course, a scoop of brightly colored sherbet. The sherbet would float on top, slowly melting into the punch, creating a creamy, sweet concoction that was as much a visual treat as it was a refreshing drink. Often served at holiday parties, baby showers, and even weddings, punch bowls were the life of the party, offering guests a festive way to hydrate. The combination of sugary sherbet and carbonated soda was a big hit in an era that loved sugary, bold flavors. Today, punch bowls with sherbet are a nostalgic reminder of simpler times, and while they've faded from the spotlight, they still pop up at retro-themed parties. Whether enjoyed in a large bowl or as individual servings, they'll always be remembered as a fun, frothy throwback. Mary's Christmas Shrimp Tree. Debuting in the late 1960s and becoming a must-have centerpiece in the 1970s, Mary's Christmas Shrimp Tree captured the creative spirit of baby boomer households. This retro appetizer combined practicality with festive flair. Shrimp cocktail skewers arranged in the shape of a Christmas tree, often on a foam cone covered with foil. Garnished with cherry tomatoes, parsley, and even olives, it doubled as both decor and a delicious treat. Inspired by the photo spreads in vintage magazines and old commercials, it became a hallmark of Christmas appetizers from the 1970s, symbolizing the era's love for elaborate displays. Baby boomers embraced it as a way to dazzle guests, pairing it with cocktails and other seafood delicacies like smoked oysters. Though its popularity waned, Gen X kids growing up in the 1980s remember these quirky creations from family gatherings, often immortalized in family photo albums. Today, it's a nostalgic reminder of a golden age in American holiday entertaining, blending kitsch and creativity in equal measure. Christmas Tree Cheese Ball. The Christmas Tree Cheese Ball first appeared in the early 1970s as an upgrade to the classic cheese ball popular in the 1950s and 1960s. Shaped like a festive tree and decorated with chopped nuts, parsley, and pimentos. This dish was both functional and decorative, doubling as a centerpiece for holiday spreads. Made with cream cheese, cheddar, and sometimes pineapple for sweetness, it became a staple in suburban holiday parties, embodying the playful creativity of the era. Its design was often inspired by old photo albums and vintage party trends that celebrated whimsical presentations. The trend aligned with the rise of baby boomers hosting elaborate, picture-perfect gatherings inspired by vintage holiday commercials and retro food advertisements. Guests would often rave about its appearance before diving in, making it a conversation starter during nostalgic, rock and roll-filled evenings. Though cheese balls still exist, this Christmas-specific version has largely faded into history, remembered fondly by those who grew up during America's golden age of festive entertaining. And that's a wrap on the Christmas appetizers from the 1970s that have faded into history. Which of these retro dishes brought back memories for you, or would you love to see on holiday tables again? Don't forget to subscribe for more nostalgic trips through the old glory days.